What is going on, everyone? Anthony here, and welcome back to another video here on Let's Talk Resident Evil. And today, we're talking about Capcom's brand new action game, Exoprimal. And no, it's not Dino Crisis. It's 2040, and the planet is in crisis. Dinosaurs are appearing from thin air and laying waste to the cities across the globe. Threatened by history's deadliest creatures, the world turns to the powerful Abius Corporation and its revolutionary technology for help. The company Next Generation's AI, Leviathan, can forecast where dinosaur outbreaks will occur and deploy exofighters to the area. Armed with state-of-the-art mechanized combat armor known as exosuits, these warriors represent humanity's last hope. With this game being on the RE engine, it brings up a lot of questions. Well, why didn't they just do Dino Crisis with all of these resources? All of the characters literally look like they're out of Dino Crisis, including the Regina chick working out, who everyone's calling Regina, but it's not Regina. All of this seems way too coincidental. They kind of knew what they were doing here, but they are trying to make a statement and make their own game. And it has been in development for a long time. And again, the multiplayer side of things is what they're focusing on. But do fans like myself and hardcore Resident Evil fans and survival horror fans remember Dino Crisis? Well, yeah, absolutely. I would hope so. Dino Crisis was a great game that wasn't just a Resident Evil clone with dinosaurs. It added a completely different dynamic to the whole engine, and it tried some different things with the actual interface as far as mixing items, getting the DDK codes, getting different things that you need to unlock certain doors. Like, it added a bunch of layers to the game, and I thought it did kind of stand out from the crowd in terms of taking a Jurassic Park formula and putting it into Resident Evil. Worked really well. And the first game is still one of my favorites from that era, and I even love Dino Crisis 2, which took more of an action approach, but it still was a very fun game. We won't really talk about Dino Crisis 3 on here, but let's just say that the fans would actually love to see something like this, especially seeing all the dinosaurs in the RE engine, and everything looks really beautiful in this brand new game that they're showing us. But a lot of fans are like, where is Dino Crisis? We kind of want a Dino Crisis from this. But I'm not going to say that, oh, this game is just going to be, you know, a complete piece of crap, because I'm not going to dismiss it because it's its own thing. It didn't come out and say, hey, we are Dino Crisis, you know, and now it's multiplayer. It is trying something different, but people are immediately seeing the dinosaurs and are saying, okay, we wanted a Dino Crisis remake forever. But to be honest, I don't know. I mean, Dino Crisis has a bigger fan base through the years, and people discovered it, right? But a lot of people haven't even played the damn thing yet, you know? It is harder to attain some of the older games nowadays as far as, like, being able to play them, backwards compatibility, not being on Sony, stuff like that. So it's kind of hard for people to play some of these games. Even the PC ports are harder to play for the casual audience because they're not on Steam, just like the original Resident Evil trilogy. They're not on Steam, so they're harder for people to play. So I think that if you were to put it out, even if it didn't sell crazy back in the day, and that's sometimes the business reason as to why they don't bring back these games from the dead or remake them, reboot them, whatever the case may be. But I honestly think with the brand new wave of the Resident Evil remake train and how much money and how many sales that has accumulated over the few years, remake Dino Crisis right now, and I'm sure that you'll get sales and you'll get people that are very interested, because Jurassic Park is still going strong, and so is Resident Evil, and survival horror is still going strong, thankfully, you know? So I think it would be a perfect time to do that. But it's interesting that they took a more action approach. I would have thought with this game, they would have, with Exoprimal, when I first saw that title, the first thing I thought was, okay, Primal, you know, it's dealing with that, but I thought that it was going to take more of like a horror approach, not so much of an action approach. So I wonder, like, where that is, because they're going to be multiplayer horror games, like more of like a dreadful vibe. This does seem like, obviously there's a crisis, there's dinosaurs, it's in a city, it's almost like post-apocalyptic, you know. It's still I guess like dark in some manner, but like, you get what I'm saying. It doesn't have the horror vibe. So I wonder what made them creatively go away from that vibe and kind of go for a more action-oriented kind of, again, Lost Planet vibe that I get, because Lost Planet wasn't horror, but it was more like sci-fi horror mixed with action, but it was a good blend. But this being just multiplayer, it's very interesting. But I think that it will have its market. I think Capcom has been dipping their toe into multiplayer stuff here and there with Resident Evil. It hasn't been that great of a success, in my opinion. I'm still wondering where Reverse is, to see if they're still trying to implement more multiplayer stuff in their games. This just being a multiplayer game, not kind of building off of Resident Evil or building off of a previous franchise and saying, hey, this is a multiplayer add-on or whatever. This is just its own game. I do appreciate that, because I'd rather it be its own game than like another Resistance or another, Reverse, right? Because those are attached to Resident Evil, and yes, we know that they're there, but a lot of people aren't too stoked about it from the community, from my perspective, and myself included. So when you do a game that doesn't really have any previous attachments, as far as some nods to dinosaurs, and obviously fans are going to think Dino Crisis, and they know fans are thinking that, but I think they're trying to go in a different direction. But I personally would like to see Dino Crisis. I'm all for Dino Crisis. I'm all for the remake, but at the same time, who knows what will happen. They have the resources. The T-Rex looks awesome. All the dinosaurs in this game and the graphics look awesome. I mean, it's on the RE engine, and everything looks really solid. So, of course, if they remade Dino Crisis, we know that thing's going to look amazing, and it's going to look the best it's ever looked. But, again, this is just kind of like a fan, just kind of wishful thinking, but also saying, hey, you know what? I kind of vibe with what people are kind of, the initial reaction of being really kind of like, oh, man, they almost got it with the Dino Crisis. They almost got it. But they're trying to show us something new. And it's not really my type of game, guys. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. It's just not my type of multiplayer game. Like, but I mean, I'll check it out. I definitely will check it out, but I don't know. I kind of like first-person shooters, multiplayer. Like, I like Halo. I like Siege, in the last few years, not last couple years, but during the PS4 gen, I was on Siege a lot. So competitively, in what I play with my friends, this doesn't, unless they get really into it, but a lot of people are really into, Call of Duty and Halo and stuff like that. So doesn't really seem like my cup of tea as far as the gameplay wise, but we'll see more. This was a very short trailer that was just kind of giving you a lot in a small period of time, just to kind of show you, hey, you can customize your individual, you can customize your soldier, there's going to be a story that's kind of going on in between everything. So it's very interesting to see them do something like this in a multiplayer light. But, of course, me being a fan of Dino Crisis and loving survival horror, of course I want to see Dino Crisis come back. And I am kind of bummed that we didn't necessarily get that, But to be fair, though, to be honest with you, I'm just going to say this. I'm going to say this on here. It's not like I was expecting it anyway, right? Because we are living in a world where, Resident Evil 4 Remake is probably going on, right? We still haven't gotten an official word from Capcom, right? But we know stuff's going on. We know it's happening. It's inevitable, okay? Resident Evil 4 is going to come out. But Code Veronica doesn't come out, right? Code Veronica doesn't get remade. And I feel like Dino Crisis is kind of in that same lane where they are very highly regarded and people talk about them a lot. And they say, oh, this, and that. Obviously, Code Veronica is, lumped into a bigger franchise. But you get what I'm saying. They're both big games by fans' perspectives, but yet they don't get remade. And a lot of people are saying, why would you go and do RE4 so soon when you could easily do Code Veronica? And then some people could say the same thing about this game. Why would you go and make a new game with dinosaurs and not do Dino Crisis? But I don't think that was ever on the agenda. I don't even think Dino Crisis was like, I think they threw those elements in there because, dinosaurs and Capcom. When's the last time they've done dinosaurs? Dinosaurs in space. That's the last time they did dinosaurs. So them coming back and doing this and doing the little winks, that could just be an Easter egg. Some people can look further into that and say Dino Crisis is coming. And look, I wouldn't put anything can happen nowadays. So I'm not saying, I'm never going to say never, but I'm just saying I think right now they are focused on brand new games. They got a bunch coming out, couple games, and then obviously their mainstays, which is like Street Fighter, Resident Evil, and stuff like that. So But, you know, who knows? This is a multiplayer game, so we'll see how successful it is. Let me know down in the comments what you think of Exoprimal, and what do you think of Dino Crisis? Do you remember it fondly? Do you want to see it come back? Were you kind of bummed that you kind of saw a different outcome than what you thought it was when you first saw dinosaurs? Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to smash that like button, hit the subscribe and the bell notification, and stay tuned for more Let's Talk Resident Evil content. I will catch everyone in the next one. A big shout out to everyone that supports me on Patreon and YouTube memberships. YouTube members grants you access to voting on content with custom badges and emojis for chats. Patreon gives you the same voting privilege, but even more. Gain access to uncut recording sessions, weekly exclusive Patreon shows, and live hangouts on Patreon. Tiers start at just $1. Thank you so much for your support, and I will catch you next time.